Hey there, Tiffany and Brad here with Years of Years, and it's This Day in Disney for March 26th. And today is an exciting day. I'm so excited to go back and talk about a very important actor, and you're gonna be shocked to know that there's a Disney connection. Maybe some of you guys already know this, but today, on this day, back in 1931, Leonard Nimoy was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
So true.
Yes.
Born or arrived?
I think he was born.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, we don't need to debate.
Okay, fine. We won't debate. So, just to get it out there, it's true, we're Star Trek fans.
Yeah, and we never get to talk about it on Disney.
Yeah, until we found this very important. And there's other, I'm sure, connections that we'll find in the future.
So much so that for our first wedding anniversary,
yes,
we went to a Star Trek movie.
That is true. In Chicago.
Yeah.
Yep.
At an amazing theater at the time, like IMAX before IMAX.
Right, it was before IMAX was really big,
Awesome.
and we really enjoyed it, and it was awesome because we love Star Trek too. So that's okay, right? We can like Star Trek, right, guys? All right, so let's talk about the Disney connection. So just first off, the film Atlantis, which we've talked about before, The Lost Empire, he voiced King Kashekim Nedakh.
You're forgiven, non-Atlantean.
Oh my goodness. Yes, so he played the king in this role and he did really, really well. Okay, and so I really enjoyed.
No, it was awesome.
Like,
it was exactly what was
portrayed.
needed at that portion of the film. Like
Someone
that we identified with as otherworldly, wise beyond reason, and I mean, maybe not logical in this sense, but it was amazing.
No, he was, like, because towards the end of the film, he talks about the choices he had made before and how they affected his wife, because, she gets sucked into the thing, the blue crystal thing. I forget the name, but he just talks about the consequences because he tried to use something that was so sacred and special to them as a weapon, and it harmed his people and his wife. So yeah, he was wise, and he was the right voice. I think throughout Leonard Nimoy's career, he was very smart in the roles that he chose. Very intentional, even more after Star Trek than anything, but before as well. I mean, he wasn't just gonna take any role, but he did good. He did really good.
But I'm surprised as well too that as much as we talk about his logical, stoic, and he does so many like documentaries and so much like that, and shows on, I mean, so many shows where his logical reasoning side is like utilized, but he also was the writer, director, producer of Three Men and a Baby, which is being rebooted right now.
He was the
on
director.
Disney Plus.
Yep.
He was the director.
He was the director. He had some other directing accomplishments, but yes, he is the director for Three Men and a Baby.
And
so
my understanding is, I believe I've watched like documentaries around that time on cable whenever they were running Three Men and a Baby, like on HBO and stuff like that, like first run syndication.
Yes.
Like that. He's appreciated as a very funny guy, and that people who get into his circle just consider him a total riot and total
Absolutely.
fun.
And we'll get into that in a minute, but let me just talk about the other Disney connections. So Touchstone is Disney, so that is a Disney connection right there. Also, he directed 1988's The Good Mother and the 1994 Hollywood picture film Holy Matrimony. And then in '89, he took part in the opening of the Disney-MGM Studios in Florida.
Indeed, he
did. So he
did.
was part of it, and his handprints are
still in front of the Chinese theater.
Yep, over at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, right in the concrete.
Yeah.
you can do the same. Many times I've touched my hand.
One of our
To
episodes.
such a sacred space.
One of our episodes here on this day was Body Wars. We talked about that. He was the director of Body Wars as well, and that was over in the Wonders of Life pavilion at Epcot. So
did you know that Mr. Spock had such a hand in Disney?
yes.
And this very hand.
It gets even better. And he was actually a really iconic villain in Kingdom Hearts. So he played Xehanort.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Not even Atlantean, and people obviously not from Atlantis.
Right,
yeah.
but Kingdom Hearts. And so everyone knows, well, that loves Kingdom Hearts and video games pretty well, knows about, you know, Leonard Nimoy's role as Xehanort. He's a pretty aggressive, I don't know if aggressive's the right term, but you know, I watched some video of him being the villain, and he was pretty dastardly, so intense. So yeah, Mickey definitely has to, you know, go to battle. And then the other thing is his nemesis is actually voiced by Mark Hamill. So it's like
the Star Trek
and Star Wars battle each other technically in Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. Did you know that? I think that's highly interesting. But anyway, you know, I'm sure there's tons of fans that are out there that love Leonard Nimoy. I can't do him a huge amount of justice going through his filmography, going through all the shows he's been in. I'll just share a little bit. His parents, you know, they were
Vulcan?
They weren't Vulcan.
What? I'm sorry, go ahead.
They were from Poland or the Ukraine, and
Close.
They actually they came over, his father actually walked across Poland to, you know, flee that situation because they were Jewish, and then his mother and grandmother were hidden in like a horse-drawn carriage to get out as well, and they met up in the United States. And so they definitely had to rebuild their lives here in America, and he worked all sorts of odd jobs as a kid, but he continually went back to acting, and he loved to act. In fact, he also could sing. He sang at his own bar mitzvah, and his voice was so incredible that they asked him to sing again the next week at another bar mitzvah. Wow. And I believe William Shatner makes a joke that Leonard Nimoy is the only person he knows that sang 2 bar mitzvahs in a row. And, you know, that's the coolest thing about really Star Trek and Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner is that they were like brothers. They were like best friends. They were so close, and it really came through in the show. I think that's why the 2 characters did so incredibly well together. But going back to his acting career, you know, he came over, went to Los Angeles. He did all sorts of roles. He was trying to make his way to be a star actor, and you know, he had children at the time. He had to feed his family, so he drove taxis and did all sorts of odd jobs, just like he did when he was younger. So
the full journey.
He really did, and so he decided,
if I can make it there, I'll make it.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. Anyway, he decided that he should not be the star actor, that he should be in a leading role, like a supportive role. And so he decided, because of his thinness and his frame, and he had overcome his Boston accent, but he still just didn't have the right look, he felt, to be like that lead role. And so he decided to focus on being, you know, the supporting role, or a lead supporting role, which I just think is perfect and worked out so well for him. And it shows how smart he was, because
logical.
He ended up being obviously in the supporting role that is probably the most iconically known as really almost a lead role. I mean, some people see Spock, you know, more than they do.
Only C-3PO to R2-D2, I think, is more.
No, definitely Spock. I mean, his role, what he did with that character is phenomenal. So when he was younger, he actually had studied after a method actor. And so with Spock, he really did method act, and it affected him as a person. So everything about the character of being less social, stoic, and not having a lot of emotions, and being really all the things that you've been talking about, that's something that affected his personal.
Over the 3 seasons? Wow.
Well, it affected his,
I guess, lifetime.
Years. Yeah.
Because the
But
motion picture.
From the time period that they were doing the show, it affected his life because they had 12-hour days. And so he said that there was only from the afternoon, because he'd work Monday to Friday, and by the end of Sunday afternoon is when he would be himself again. So most of his life, it affected his whole life. So he even wrote 2 biographies about it. The first one was called I Am Not Spock. And even fans were kind of offended because it was like he was trying to push off being Spock, but he really wasn't. It was just the trying to express, through a book and letting it out, like what he was going through, to really, he method acted this role to the point that it affected his whole life. Mm-hmm. And so then he wrote the second biography, which was I Am Spock.
Yeah. But the first one written really in a time prior to our current age of loving all things like science fiction and storytelling, and the other afterwards. I mean,
was definitely
there was a time when the worst thing that you could do for yourself was go to a Star Trek convention, and share about it. And now it's like the best thing you can do for yourself. So.
The method actor that I had mentioned that he followed was Konstantin Stavlinsky, and so I'm sure that was really strict method acting.
Yeah,
is all that I wanted to point out.
Hold his entire life.
Yeah, so it affected him, and really his biographies, I think, were an outlet to show what he gave to the character, and it worked really, really well.
He didn't just get typecasted; he got life casted. Crazy.
In a way, but he did so much after his role as Spock. So not only that, but he was also, like I mentioned, he could sing really, really well. He did photography. He almost left the profession of acting to become a professional photographer. That's how talented he was at that. He also, there's a few musical things that he produced around Star Trek and other things that you can go check out. He was a director, as I mentioned, and he was a poet. And even one of his final tweets before he passed away in 2015 was a beautiful little poem that you guys could go look up. But a phenomenal actor, really someone to look to as far as being really multi-talented, but also really smart. And I think, to me, learning about him and knowing about him, just that pivotal moment in his career when he was trying to be a star and realizing, if I just focus on being a lead supporting actor, things are going to go well. And they did. And really, he was the lead actor. He was a star as Spock, for sure. So anyway, that's Leonard Nimoy's Disney connection, and I hope you guys all love him as much as we do too, and maybe there's some Star Trek Disney fans out there like us, so really awesome.